The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has entered its third year, with no signs of slowing down. From developments on the ground to diplomatic maneuvers, from economic sanctions to global repercussions, this war continues to reshape the world. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the latest updates and deeper dynamics behind the conflict. You're watching Hotspot Update, where news is delivered quickly, clearly, and reliably every day.
The world is awaiting an unprecedented diplomatic event as U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin prepare for a summit meeting in Alaska in mid-August 2025. This is not only a meeting between two powerful leaders, but also an opportunity to address the hottest issues today, especially the prolonged conflict in Ukraine. However, this event also raises many big questions about the future of peace and regional stability, as the most important stakeholder, Ukraine, is not directly present at the negotiating table. While the U.S. and Russia seek strategic and geopolitical interests, Ukraine is determined to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity according to its constitution. A summit meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin has been confirmed to take place in the state of Alaska, USA, on August 15, 2025. According to official statements, the focus of the meeting is to discuss a potential peace agreement to end the long-running conflict in Ukraine. President Donald Trump officially announced the upcoming meeting on social media on August 8th. The announcement was made after he stated that the parties were close to reaching a ceasefire agreement.
The highly anticipated meeting between myself as President of the United States of America and President Vladimir Putin of Russia will take place next Friday, August 15, 2025, in the great state of Alaska. Further details to follow. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
When announcing the meeting location with Russian President Vladimir Putin as Alaska, U.S. President Donald Trump affirmed that it is a very popular location for many reasons. Previously, the Russian and American leaders planned to meet in a neutral territory, with Putin proposing the United Arab Emirates. Holding the meeting on U.S. soil may come as a surprise, but the decision to choose Alaska is seen as a win for both leaders. For Trump, this move demonstrates strength as the Russian leader comes to U.S. territory to meet him. Meanwhile, President Putin also avoids flying over countries that Russia considers unfriendly, especially since he is wanted by the International Criminal Court. The U.S. does not recognize the ICC's jurisdiction. During an exchange with the press, President Trump first hinted at an important upcoming meeting, stating that an official announcement would be made soon.
I will say that Europe wants to see peace. The European leaders want to see peace. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace. Now, President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done. Well, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
Following the U.S. announcement, the Kremlin confirmed the information about the summit. President Putin's aide, Yuri Ushakov, made a statement emphasizing bilateral interests beyond the scope of the conflict.
Incidentally, Alaska and the Arctic are regions where the economic interests of our countries intersect, and there are clear prospects for implementing large-scale, mutually beneficial projects. Of course, the presidents themselves will undoubtedly focus on discussing options for achieving a long-term, peaceful resolution to the Ukrainian crisis. In conclusion, I would like to note that in the coming days, Moscow and Washington will certainly devote themselves to the most active and intense preparations for the practical and political aspects of the Alaska Summit. This will evidently be a challenging process, but we will engage in it actively and energetically.
The Ukrainian government issued an official response expressing clear opposition to any idea involving the concession of territorial sovereignty. On August 9th, President Volodymyr Zelensky affirmed the country's stance based on the Ukrainian constitution.
Of course, we will not reward Russia for what it has perpetrated. The Ukrainian people deserve peace. But all partners must understand what a dignified peace is. The answer to the Ukrainian territorial question already is in the Constitution of Ukraine. No one will deviate from this, and no one will be able to. Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier.
This reaction from Kyiv is seen as a major obstacle to Mr. Trump's plan. Analyst Radchenko noted, the person to ask the most is, of course, President Zelensky, who has sounded the alarm in his comments. The summit, expected to take place in Alaska, is drawing worldwide attention. According to some analysts, this event could bring more political benefits to Mr. Trump than to Mr. Putin.
Summits have taken place before between, let's say, the Soviet Union, Moscow, or the United States, places like Reykjavik, for example. Or last time, of course, Trump and Putin met, that was in Helsinki. But things have changed. Things have moved on. So from Russia's perspective, they don't like the Europeans. And I think having a summit somewhere far away from Europe, excluding Europe, is a way for Putin to say, look, Europe doesn't matter. We have our own relationship with the United States. We're actually neighbors. And, take it or leave it. We'll just talk about our things, which, by the way, includes Ukraine, and you're not included here. And so that's a message to the Europeans more than anything else. Russia desires nothing as much as a recognition of its greatness by the United States. The United States is the main recognizer. They can give that to Russia. This sort of legitimacy that comes from being seen, being recognized, etc. So for Russia, this symbolic significance is massive, which is why you have to wonder why President Trump is giving that to Putin. That is something that Putin craves, absolutely craves. There's no question about it. What is he going to get in return for this? Is Putin going to agree to actually end the war in Ukraine? If so, on what kind of terms? And this is where some of the big questions start to come up, because of course we know that Putin has made his demands about the conditions that he would like fulfilled before he stops his war in Ukraine, and those conditions are not pretty conditions from the standpoint of Ukraine. Surrender of territory, interference with Ukraine's internal legislation, like changing Ukrainian laws, making sure that Ukraine is permanently neutral, not a part of NATO. Most importantly, and crucially actually for Ukraine, demilitarizing Ukraine, i.e. not allowing Ukraine to have a military to be able to defend itself. So lots of demands that he will likely present to President Trump in that summit. Will Trump agree to those? Those are the big questions that I think people are asking. Well, I think if nothing comes from it, that's also okay from Putin's perspective. It's going to be sort of humiliating for Trump if nothing comes out of this, because he will have given all that face to Putin. He will have given all that recognition to Putin, and then got nothing out of this. Well, that's a slap in the face. So that's not going to be looking good for Trump at all. For Putin, he will look great. He will say, look, I'm being wined and dined here in America. And of course, remember that 2 weeks later, so the summit is on August 15th, but then 2 weeks later, he's going to China because there's an SCO meeting there. There's a Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So you'll be meeting with Xi Jinping, having already done his rounds with President Trump, and that puts him in a better position. So he stands to win no matter what happens. Questions of legacy. Putin is getting on years, right? He's not going to stay around forever. And I think his invasion of Ukraine was largely motivated by this question of legacy. Am I the Tsar who gathered the Russian land, so to speak? That's how the internal narrative goes. And 100 years from now, will they look back on this and say, well, Putin is the one who gathered the lands, or will they say, well, he was just having a good relationship with President Trump? So in other words, it's this question of legacy and the question of Ukraine specifically, and how important it is to Russia's national identity, that I think has to be put on the other side of the equation, and that's what makes it this dynamic kind of conflict.
Clearly, the summit in Alaska is not just a bilateral negotiation. From Washington's perspective, it is an opportunity to create a historic agreement. From Moscow, it is an affirmation of its status on the international stage. And for Kyiv, it is a struggle to protect its national integrity. 3 perspectives, 3 goals, and 1 negotiating table in Alaska. All are creating one of the most complex and unpredictable diplomatic events in recent years. Finally, where will it all lead? Will a historic agreement be signed, or is this just a diplomatic move without any concrete results? President Trump once shared that the issue of Ukrainian territory will be the focus of negotiations, proposing territorial exchanges between the parties, although very complicated and not easy, aiming to achieve benefits for both sides. Meanwhile, President Putin seeks recognition of international status, while President Zelensky firmly maintains the red line regarding Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The outcome of this meeting, whether success or failure, will certainly create profound geopolitical reverberations, affecting not only the involved parties, but also the global security order. All eyes will be on Alaska in the coming days. We will continue to update the latest and most accurate information. To not miss any developments, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos.